Hi, welcome to Playing with Fire podcast. I'm Bryan Spitulski, your host. I'm an ex-firefighter and a current fire investigator. I've been doing fire investigations for about 25 years, and today I am here with Mike Avila. Mike Avila is an engineer, which I need to explain some of this firefighter lingo because last time when I was having a conversation with Chuck Butler, we were talking about turnouts and stuff, and people don't realize what the turnouts are, what firefighter lingo is. So an engineer is probably the most important person on a fire engine. He is the guy who not only gets us to the incident, but also gives us water, makes sure that the engine is parked in a manner that either protects us if it's a vehicle accident or is in the proper location if it's a structure fire so that we can get our hose. He pumps water into our hoses. So a very important person. But Mike also has other duties besides driving the fire engine. He is also a critical stress manager for incidents that are traumatic for the fire service. So this is going to kind of tie into what we have been doing with Chuck Butler and our PTSD storylines that we're working on. I thought it would be great to bring Mike in so that he can explain what a local agency, is it okay if I say, he's with Consolidated Fire Protection. It's the county agency. Why don't you tell me what it is? Because it's changed so many names over the years.
I work for Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District. The 1995 formed from Empire Fire, Waterford Fire, Stanislaus County Fire, and Riverbank Fire.
Okay. And so you guys merged, became one fire department with how many stations?
Correct. We have 5 paid stations.
Okay. And how many personnel on shift every day?
A lot less when I started, but we have 3 per station, and hopefully soon our Quint will have 4.
Okay. You've got chiefs, firefighters, captains, engineers.
Every one of our stations has a captain, engineer, firefighter. We have 3 battalion chiefs. We have admin people in our office, which is in Riverbank. We have a fire chief who ultimately is under the Modesto fire umbrella. So they take care of a lot of our administrative stuff at cost effective.
Okay. So how many square miles do you even know what Consolidated covers?
We have about 215 square miles.
Wow.
So it's quite a large area. Some of that may have changed, but we have some stations that cover, like our station Waterford covers a big majority of that. They're probably in the 100 square mile range.
Wow.
They cover from literally McEwen Road all the way up to LaGrange.
Okay.
So it's a vast distance. So when you pop out of Waterford for a veg fire, you're driving sometimes 20, 25 minutes to reach it.
To get to a call. And that wouldn't be just veg fires. That could be a vehicle accident, medical aid, heart attack. Do you guys cover the reservoir and the river? And
yes, we have Modesto Reservoir. We have chunks of Stanislaus River and the Tuolumne River.
So it's a pretty good sized department. I'm familiar with Consolidated. It used to be a couple of different names over the years. When I was a volunteer in Ceres, we dealt with Consolidated a lot. So tell me about your fire career. When did you start in the fire? I want the very first pizza you delivered. I want to know when that was.
So I grew up in Gustine. I did not know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to go into electronics engineering. So a few years later, taking classes at MJC, I kind of felt lost. And I have actually quite interesting story about that. I was working at Mountain Mike's Pizza. I was a manager. I was driving home 1 a.m. all the way to my parents' house and almost hit something in the road on one of the turns. I stopped, pulled over. I go, somebody's going to hit that thing, get in an accident. So I backed up to it, and it was a street sign that said Chicago and Carpenter.
Wow.
And I remember, I'm kind of a goofy person sometimes. I remember going, man, you're like 2,000 miles away from where you're supposed to be. And threw it off the road, didn't even think about it. Years later, I was leaving my house, and my roommate, who never woke up early, I go, hey, you're up early. He goes, yeah, I couldn't sleep. Went and grabbed some CDs out of my car. And Modesto B got delivered. I was like, oh, that's cool. He goes, hey, they're looking for firefighters in South Modesto. And it was like so weird to me. I was like, I've never talked with him about that. He goes, you should check that out. And I was just, okay. And I got in my car, went to work. We were slammed that day. I got to work at like 9 a.m. I was itching to come home. It's like 6:30 at night. One of our other stores calls and she tells me that one of their ovens had gone down. And I was one of the only people that knew how to work on it. So got in my truck, drove over there, fixed the oven. I'm taking my tools out and I hear, hey, Mike. And I look over, it's one of my old customers. His name was Dirk. And I go, hey, what's going on? So talking with him and his wife, and he goes, hey, did you see the thing in the paper? My hair
Wow.
stood up on my arms, and I still get a little emotional about it. I go, "What are you talking about?" Even though I already knew his answer. They're looking for firefighters in South Modesto. I kind of paused, and I was trying to figure out what on earth was happening. And I go, "How did you even hear about this?" Because I still have the ad. It's like a little tiny classified ad.
This is when there were paper
Yes.
newspapers. That's crazy.
And he goes, "My neighbor, his name's Scott. He is a volunteer in South Modesto, and he told us a few weeks ago if we knew any good people. And my wife and I actually thought of you, and you're here today." And I was like, I've got to go to this place, I guess. I'm being led there. And went the next day and attempted to find Burbank Paradise Fire Department. And I found it.
What street is it on?
1313 Beverly.
Beverly, which is pretty close to Chicago and Carpenter,
Yes.
isn't it?
So leading into that story, we do some training. I'm on the engine with a guy named Scott Holmes and Justin Coker, who works Stockton Fire now. We run our very first medical aid. It's a house that you could throw a baseball and hit the intersection of Chicago and Carpenter.
On your first medical
Very first
call.
medical aid. It was a code. We worked them all the way to the hospital. I had extremely little medical experience at that point. Fast forward a few months later, my first structure fire was at the exact same house.
Wow.
It's a little weird.
So I know Scotty Holmes very well.
Yep.
I went through the academy with him. Burbank Paradise is I'll say, notorious fire department. They've got a base of volunteers learning there and then getting hired at professional departments.
Correct.
So good place to start.
You get a lot of experience really quick.
Yeah. Well, right on. So flash all the way up to today. You're now an engineer. What station? 25?
Station 23.
23.
Which is by the fruit yard.
Okay. So let's jump into what other duties you have.
Normal coming on, making sure all the engines are checked out. Pumps work. Nothing more embarrassing than having an engine that won't start or something not working with the pump, because then you're having to figure out really quick what's going on. So we double check that everything's working. I make sure compartments aren't open and just making sure that things are working good, because ultimately it's my responsibility to make sure that we get from the station to the scene safely and that the public is safe, even in our travel route.
Right. And I did have one call where we were listening on the radio. Burbank Paradise went to a structure fire, working structure fire, and couldn't get the pump to engage.
Yeah.
And we sat there for probably 7 minutes waiting for you guys to call us a mutual aid. Finally did. But that is a tough scenario. As an engineer, you probably hate it.
Very much so. And with Burbank Paradise, you have a lot of older equipment. And so you have to keep checking on it. But there's sometimes things just happen.
Can't do anything about it. So now, besides your engineering duties, you are a critical stress manager.
Correct. Yes.
Explain that.
So 2011 to 2013, we had a thing called the Critical Incident Stress Management Team. It was a nationwide thing fire departments were trying. It was a way to attempt to defuse situations that were happening. There were so many suicides, people leaving the career, divorces. Things were getting out of control. And it was their first attempt to really try to figure out how to calm us down and figure out what was eating us up inside. And it was a really good program. There were some problems with it, but there are some things that it morphed into, which what we have today is called the peer support team. The peer support team is an amazing thing that I think we were always doing. We are nominated from our peers to be on the team, and we literally do stuff like we normally did around the station. There's always departments, talking about 60s, 70s, there was always somebody that you knew you could talk to in the department. That person didn't necessarily have the training, but you just knew that was a person you could talk to. So we're basically trained to be able to find, maybe spot things that just are not right, maybe be a bridge to finding them help if it's needed. Because I think a lot of people, even if you were one of those people, you always felt like so-and-so will take care of it. His buddy so-and-so will take care of it, or this and that. And I think it really gave us the permission to go and make sure that our colleagues were good and that they're getting taken care of.
Okay, so let's work out a scenario, because if you haven't already listened to the podcast with Chuck Butler and myself, the 2 episodes, we go into a couple of incidents that stressed us both out. One of them, Antoine Moore. One of the things that Chuck and I brought up were continuing the conversation with people outside of the station, not just pulling them into, when the 3 of you are in the day room, asking everybody, hey, you okay? And of course, they're going to say, yeah, I'm okay, because you got 2 other guys that are right there, or 3 other So you don't feel as comfortable to talk about it. One of the things that we felt with Antoine was that there were signs that took place months later, a year later, that indicated he was having difficulty. And we didn't catch that. And both Chuck and I have guilt for that. Is that what you would be watching for with the line personnel or anybody that would be going through it?
Correct. With CISM, the Critical Incident Stress Management Team, basically incident would happen. We hopefully by that evening would set up a meeting. We'd have everybody that was in the incident. We'd sit around in a circle and we'd go around in the circle and introduce ourselves, maybe say what we did on scene. And you had the opportunity, you didn't necessarily have to talk, but you could say what you said, maybe go, hey, I was pretty upset about that, but now that I hear so-and-so talking about it, I realize that it was out of his control. And I do feel a lot better about that. We're able to get people to not harbor so much anger for things because they were actually, instead of finding out years later, they were able to find out right then. The problem with that is there's some people that are not ready to talk 2 hours after the incident, 24 hours after, 2 weeks after.
Right.
So that's the one-on-one thing with us. But basically, if we do have some kind of a big call, we're able to maybe put in touch. One of the big people that pushed it in our department is Travis Grapes, captain. He's amazing. He has an amazing passion for it. He's the one that should be here talking about it.
For PTSD issues? Okay.
The peer support, he is just on it. He came up from down south a few years ago, and he blessed our department, and we're very grateful to have him. But basically, somebody gets in touch with one of us on the team and says, hey, this is the call that happened, and Travis will maybe say, okay, that guy's got a really good connection with so-and-so. I'm going to tell him what's going on and have him be our lead on it. And if anything is needed, that's our point person. That way, it's almost like being on a fire scene. Like, hey, I thought you were going to turn the power off. I thought you were going to turn it off. You know, or with CPR, where you're in public and you say, you go call 911. You give somebody very specific directions, or else everybody thinks everybody else did it. And that's the good parts. I think it keeps a lot of things from slipping through the cracks. But going back on that, being nominated from my fellow peers, it takes years of trust. It's something I think that it's not taught. It's building that trust up, years on calls, everything. And you can't just teach somebody to do that. And a lot of these people can't necessarily come from other departments, can't have a neighboring department really send somebody in for that specific thing, which CISM did have that aspect to it. And they're finding that people shut down. Some firefighters might shut down because there's ambulance crews there and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So they really learned from a lot of that because they're figuring out, like, we're setting all this stuff up and these guys are getting quote unquote better just by chatting with their crews at the station, or 3 days later when he's working with a certain person that he really, really likes talking to.
Right. All right. So in order to build that comfortable conversation with somebody, you kind of have to have lived those moments. You have to have gone through some challenging scenarios. And you and I, we've known each other for quite some time. Your personality, I can see, allows people to talk to you very easily. People who are going through PTSD need that. And they also need their friends they're comfortable talking to. So I'm glad that you guys are doing that type of interaction. We didn't have that with Modesto when Chuck and I were going through it. One of the other problems was that it was such a small incident. It was basically Antoine and I that went in and pulled our friend out of the burned van. So it wasn't known to the chief. Chuck knew a little bit of it, but I don't think we really understood the impact that it had on us. So those little incidents need to be looked at as well. It's kind of like, how are you feeling? You know, where does it hurt kind of thing. But I'm sure you've gone through many scenarios, many incidents. How long have you been a firefighter?
Career paid since 2003.
Wow. So throw an incident at us, something that you recall that kind of burns in your memory.
A really early incident was a vehicle versus train, 2007. We had 3 children and 3 women that were killed in the accident.
Where was this at?
Riverbank.
Okay.
We got on scene. I was actually working at our Empire station, and we got dispatched with the Riverbank station because we were the truck. And I had some familiarity with that rail yard. And so basically I already looked at it and knew that I could kind of snake through there and reach where the accident was compared to where 26 was coming from.
Okay. So real quick, because it's still fresh in my mind, that people don't understand what the truck means. So when he says he was on the truck is involved in the rescue aspect of a lot of incidents. You have the heavy tools on it, the hearse tools, the jaws of life kind of thing. So you're on the truck. Are you a firefighter at this point?
No, I got hired as an engineer.
You're an engineer.
But we had just hired firefighters, so we finally had 3 personnel on our engine.
Okay, so you're driving the truck?
Yep, we're driving there. Basically, our department's unique in that all of our engines already carry quite a bit of equipment, a lot more than most departments. We even carry 750 gallons of water, and we're still carrying 500 gallons. Right. And so 26 already had some equipment, but the truck has heavier equipment and more specialized equipment. So we were dispatched with them. Sure enough, I start making my way in there. I make a few turns through all the rail cars, and we were right there. We ended up 30 feet from this thing.
Now, how did the car, that's from the crossing, is a long ways, right? Did it get drugged?
Yeah.
Okay.
The train was going like 79 miles an hour.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Because I'm familiar with that yard, and it's quite a distance from the railroad crossing there.
I would say they made it nearly a third of the way to Patterson from going northbound.
Patterson Road.
To Patterson Road from Clarabelle.
Okay, got it. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, that was a pretty tough call. I had people tell me really early on, if you do not have to look, do not look. And my faith also helps me tremendously in that aspect. Basically, anytime I'm going to any kind of a bigger call, I say a prayer and I have a conversation with him. And I asked him to do is work through my hands. And we got on scene. Sheriff's Department was there. We knew that there was nothing we could do to save anybody. There was tremendous amount of compartment intrusion, tremendous amount.
So when you say compartment intrusion, the vehicle was crushed.
Very much so.
Was it under the locomotive?
It was not, but it
hit
it so well in the middle that the vehicle did not spin off of it. It stayed
and drug
attached to it.
Right. So you being a father, 2 boys?
2 boys and 2 girls.
Wow. So at that time you were not married.
I was married. I got married in 2004. Okay. So we had a very, very young baby.
Oh, wow.
At home at the time.
All right. So impact. Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying about don't look if you don't have to, but sometimes it's necessary.
Correct.
And even just the scale of the incident brings all that really home. What do you have that triggers you right now to think about that?
Smell. There's a very specific smell. I cannot figure out what it is, but I don't know if it's kind of like a battery acid smell, or maybe somebody in the car had a perfume bottle, and it was everywhere on that scene. I cannot figure out what it is, but I will be in the middle of nowhere, completely in a whole different world, and I will smell that. Within seconds, I know it transports me back to there. And it's quite amazing. The studies on how smell and memory are triggered. It's quite amazing.
What have you done to help you deal with that? That's got to be an extremely traumatic incident.
I always had God in my life, but during that time, he was there, but I wasn't meeting him halfway on it. And that call and a few other calls really put me into a slump with a lot of things. My wife is very forgiving. She's very loving, very supportive. And I thank God for that, because I would just shut down sometimes and be very quiet. And that could be almost as bad, if not worse, than somebody that yells. And she's incredibly supportive. And that's the only way I was able to get through that. But later on, to finally deal with it, it was going to church. That's what finally allowed me to be at peace with what happened that day.
Crazy. And your wife is an amazing wife. She's a teacher.
Yes.
And for her to understand what's going on, has she done anything? Are there any tools that she has used?
No, she's just incredibly patient with me. And I don't know if she uses any of her teaching magic on me or whatnot, but again, patience was a huge thing. I think she really saw in 2011 when I started going to church how it changed me. And I think that's what changed our marriage.
Wow. So impactful, very intense. Do you share this with other firefighters when you go to kind of qualify yourself?
Yeah, I don't talk about it much, kind of the street cred kind of thing. But I bring stuff up when I need to, because I don't want to traumatize people around me. I think they call it secondary trauma, and I really try to be careful with that. I'm also careful when guys are talking to me about their things to not let it well stuff up of my own, because sometimes you'll get certain personalities where somebody's telling you something and you want to almost in a way one up them or say, hey, I also had that. And that's not necessarily what people want to hear at that point. They just want you to listen, and be there with them. A lot of times you don't need to be sitting there trying to fix them.
Right.
They don't want to be fixed.
Right.
They want you to listen and assure them that what they're feeling is quite normal and they're going to make it through it.
Right. That's huge. Listen, don't speak, because that's getting it off, venting it. I call it the poison. Throwing out that poison is the best thing. And only time that I understand it as over time getting rid of that, continuously throwing it out of your body. Now, there are other things, professional help that people can get when that's not helping. We've had a couple of shootings just this last week that involved PTSD and veterans. That's going to be a whole nother topic to talk about. The VA actually has programs that help a veteran that is going through that PTSD. And theirs are a lot of times more impactful. They trigger huge events emotionally with them. Not that the fire department doesn't experience that, but you can imagine as a soldier, it's almost a more common experience where you're getting it. Do you have any other scenarios that trigger? Mine, I talked about a smell, a lawn clipping smell that takes me to an incident, but I don't have a huge impact from that. I think it's been long enough and I've kind of digested it. Certain areas, when I go through a certain area, brings back that memory. What triggers you?
That's true. Going through certain areas does. Really bright blue eyes make me think of a little boy that was hit by a go-kart. His family member went for one last ride and they lost track of him, and go-kart landed on him, and we worked him all the way to the hospital. But I just remember his beautiful blue eyes looking up and curly hair. But that one, for example, I always think about it when I drive down that road.
Wow.
We do a lot of training over there, so that one gets brought up quite a bit. But I really try not to let it eat me up inside. I think it's an energy that you get, and it's what you do with that. I believe that I was put here for a reason, and those things happen to me, and I can help others potentially deal with having seen what they see. And that's how I look at it. And I think that's how I'm able to make it through.
So real quick, before we kind of use up our time, let's throw a scenario that we've got somebody listening that is having some issues, or they're not sure if they have PTSD or something that's along that line. What do you recommend for them to do?
People that are around you, family members, coworkers, pay attention to what they're saying. They may say little things like, "You doing okay?" Or, "I'm surprised you reacted this way to that." And use those little things to self-evaluate. Hey, maybe that thing I saw 3 weeks ago is bugging me. And alcohol use, eating, all these things. It's how different people react different ways. Road rage.
Anger.
Things, yes. Being snappy. Not being who you normally are. And necessarily speaking to a family member or coworker isn't all the time the best thing. Sometimes it might be somebody you went to high school with 25 years ago. It might be somebody completely away from the job. For some people, it needs to be somebody in the job that has any clue, because you're going to be saying stuff that would terrorize anybody from outside of that world.
So people have, in our case, pastors they can go talk to. Would they talk to their boss? What is your thought on where they should go?
Like in our department, basically, we have somebody like assigned, or a few guys assigned to that person, and we provide them with information on how to deal with stress, point them towards our EAP program, which is Employee Assistance Program.
There you go.
And where they actually speak with professional psychiatrists on it.
Okay.
And they can get them placed there. And in our department's case, all they know is that the program was used a certain amount of times. They don't know who used it. There's no retaliation for using it. We've had some go through it, and it's weird. You would think that they would maybe become like, stay away from that guy. But in a lot of ways, they become almost like people become drawn to them. Hey, how was it? Was it like this? Okay, I thought it'd be scarier than that, because we're all tough firefighters. We maybe sometimes pretend that we don't care about something, but we really do. And we just need to find who we can talk to about it.
One of the things I've said, and I'll keep repeating it, is that the firefighter being the hero, not because they go and pull somebody out of a fire or a wrecked vehicle or whatever. It's because they get up the next day after they've done that, and they put the shirt on and they go into work and they're willing to do it again. That's what makes them the hero in my mind. Do you have anybody within the department that has had to leave the department, a reaction to?
As a matter of fact, the train accident.
Oh,
my acting captain that day ended up medicaling out because of that and other calls that he'd gone on.
I don't think people really understand. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure firefighters do. People outside of the first responder community don't really grasp that effect on a human being, their inner being, how seeing somebody torn up or killed or a baby or whatever, until you experience it, it's hard to explain it. It's hard to qualify it. So
in that train accident, for example, one thing that was extra traumatizing about it, we were there for hours because of the investigation, and it was hot and it smelled. We basically pulled away from the incident. We're over by our truck talking about it. We knew what we're going to have to go back in an hour or two to do. That made it very unique and weird for us.
Right.
Because we almost had to engage, unplug, and re-engage.
Right.
And that was a struggle. So I knew that I was going to have to see things and mentally prepared myself for it. We were extricating everybody out of there. We thought we originally had 4 left in the vehicle. Ended up pulling out the 4th one to find a 5th one down on the floorboard. And I couldn't quite reach to do some of the extrication. And he took the tool over. And
your captain.
Correct. And in that moment, I knew that something had happened with him. I knew that damage had been caused.
I can see it still affects you. Right now at this exact moment. You're protecting us by not saying certain things, but I'm also seeing your body language change a little bit. So we won't go down that road anymore. I get it. Yeah. Impressive. I mean, I'm impacted. So I appreciate you taking the time and coming and sharing your story with us. I'd love to have you back. This being kind of steering towards PTSD and the unknown poison that it causes, and exploring that or opening it up, I think is very helpful. And hopefully it impacts people. I know it has already helped Chuck Butler and myself. Hopefully the conversation you and I are having right now will help somebody down the road. And the one thing I'll say is, if you think you have PTSD or you're having problems with an incident, go online. Just type in, "Do I have PTSD?" Talk to somebody. It's never so bad that you have to take your life. There are resources out there that can be offered and that can help you get through this. Reach out to us. Shoot me an email. I'll answer any email. Reach out to us through social media, whatever it is. My goal would be nobody else is deciding to end their life because of something that could have been prevented. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Is there anything you'd like to add in closing?
I'm grateful to be here. I thank people like you that are bringing stuff like this out in the open to make people feel that they do have somebody out there to talk to. And maybe it might help somebody create an environment at their workplace where it's okay for people to talk.
There you go. That would be great. Just talk to somebody. Just talking opens the door. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. I want to also say, this is our first episode where we have a sponsor. Manning Buskey Forensics has sponsored us, which is extremely cool. Scott Buskey is a mechanical engineer with electrical engineering as well. Something that you talked about, some engineering stuff, but he does incredible forensics, the engineering side of it. I've worked with Scott on many different things. His dad, which is the other Buskey, I worked with him longer than I've worked with Scott. It's really cool that they are our first sponsor. So Scott, thank you for sponsoring us. Anybody needs a good mechanical engineer on the forensic side, give Scott Buskey a call with Manning Buskey Forensics. Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you for listening. Remember to like this, reach out to us through social media if you have any questions, and look forward to seeing Mike again. We will most likely have him back. Thank you.